I'm CommanderNici, and this is your favorite podcast on gaming. At least, I hope so. Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Nikki's Gaming Universe. About that comeback episode I did earlier this year, and with earlier this year, I mean almost half a year ago. I'm not sure what happened. I thought, hey, new year, new me, I totally want to get back into making this podcast, and it worked, kinda. Like, I had my Christmas episode, and then I had the New Year's episode, and I thought, I am totally going to go back into recording episodes, because I love talking about video games, and I don't know, and then it didn't happen. And there's been lots going on, and then also nothing at all, and I don't know, life is messy, but also it's not messy, and I technically have no excuses, but I'm also being a shift worker, so I have absolutely no clue how to schedule my days. I still need to get into stuff like that. And speaking about stuff like that, I kinda wanted to do some rearranging in the style I make these episodes. And with that, I mean, in the beginning, I thought I wanted to make like some, I'm gonna use the word professional now, but like in a really, really loose way, because I thought I'd make gaming podcast like some video essays exist. I just talk and voice my opinion about stuff and just don't get much into personal stuff, because I thought, yeah, that's a gaming podcast and my personal life doesn't belong there. But a lot of how I experience games is also really, really, really personal, and that's actually what I want to get into with this episode, as you can basically tell by the title. So, yeah. So, maybe just to make things easier for me, just expect more personal talk in relation to video games from me in the future, because I think that would just really, really help me doing and getting more into doing podcast episodes again, because if I can just also go on a little sidetrack about things that are something I struggle with, I can maybe still go back and relate it to a game, and maybe just, even if I'm just screaming into the void, I think that could just really, really help me, and as I said, make it easier for me to just go and record an episode, just to get things off my chest. But yeah, so with that, I guess let's actually get into this episode after this probably way too long intro. And I want to be honest, I don't even know where to start, because this episode is going to be a lot. Maybe probably not in length, but in heaviness of the topics, because I want to start off at I'm not doing fine at the moment. And I don't know, there's just stuff. Work is hard at the moment. I have a constant fear of getting into financial trouble if something doesn't go as planned. And with something not going as planned, I just mean staying employed, because this time we live in is rough and hardcore. Like, you see it even in the gaming industry. Big giant companies that you think would do well and always have like massive sale numbers, stuff, they lay off workers, lots of them. Like, some news articles even say like numbers that are like up to 5 digits big, and it's like, what? How can you lay off so many people and still have people employed? Like, how many actually work there? And I have no clue about the internal workings of the gaming industry. Like, sure, maybe you can lay off 10,000 workers or something. Maybe that's just an overestimated number, and an addition of several companies together, but still, there's like a lot of numbers being thrown around lately about gaming companies laying off people, and it's scary because if not the entertainment industry, where else should jobs be safe? And maybe it's because of AI being there and getting better, like, the writer strikes that have been going on, that were fighting against the use of AI, because sure, it's not good. AI is scary, and I'm sure it's going to make a lot of people lose their jobs, and I'm glad that I, as a factory worker, I'm probably far away from losing my job in the long run. Like, maybe I'll go to another company probably soon, because stuff is happening everywhere. But yeah, it's scary stuff, and my mental health is also probably not the best. But also, getting therapy is hard, because you have to wait like super long, and then there's the issue of not every therapist takes every kind of patient, depending on how they're insured and all that stuff. So that's extra hard. And then I just look at video games and I think, wow, that's either hitting way too hard, or is maybe just proving my point. For example, just take Stardew Valley. Like, the intro of that game is just like, we were sitting at this dead end cubicle office job that's horrible. Like, holy hell, one of your co-workers died and there's a skeleton at the desk. Excuse me, what? And then there's this big escape into a so much simpler life. You open the letter from your grandfather and it says, yo, if you ever get tired of your old life in a big city, here, grandchild, have my farm, and then you go, and it's actually kind of interesting. And over the time I've seen like a post every now and then about like how people would love to just run off and live on a little farm and take care of themselves and stuff. And it's funny because technically like the farm life is really exhausting and it's hard work and stuff, and you're really, really dependent on yourself, and if stuff goes wrong, you're screwed. But I think it's something about like cutting yourself off from this absolutely horrible money-based society and stuff, that people just wanna live a much simpler life. And like maybe, I've got some potatoes, hey neighbor, wanna trade some eggs for that? Like, I don't have chickens, but I've got potatoes. Do you want potatoes? And stuff like that. Like, people just want to escape, and I see that everywhere, that everyone just wants to go like homesteading and have like chickens and other animals, and have like a garden where they grow their own food and all that stuff. Like, it sounds so ideal. Like, if it was a job that could sustain my life standard that I have, like with all the streaming services and unnecessary food purchases that I do, that I'll like just oh, I want this new, I don't know, I want to try this new drink that some random ass influencer put on there. It might be overpriced, but I want to try it. Or like getting some extra snacks that I not necessarily need. Sure, it's good for my brain if I can give myself a little treat, but it's not just basic food for getting energy to live. So technically it's an unnecessary purchase. And also all those streaming services I just can't get myself to get rid of, even though they all are really horrible and even had some increases in their price lately, like a lot of them. And even Amazon with charging like an extra $1 or $2 to get ad-free stuff. And that there's Spotify who also upped their price, and Netflix and everything. And it's bad. It's bad. But I want to keep living like this. I have my PlayStation Plus subscription. I have my Nintendo Online Extra subscription, and I want to have all that. And probably maybe if I just took all of that stuff away, my cost of living would go down a lot, and maybe technically then I could actually, well, I'd have to move away and stuff, so that would be extra trouble. But my ideal job would be like someone who takes the goats of the village into the mountain meadows and watches them eat the grass, and then later in the evening I take the goats back to the people who own them, and I just have my little goat keeper life. You know, like in that's now really specifically German, but maybe you know it you know the show Heidi with the girl that lives in the Alps, and she has that friend Peter, and he does that what I just explained, like he goes up with the goats of the village and lets them eat the good mountain grass, and later in the evening he brings the goats back to the people of the village, and that would be like my ideal job. And like maybe I would draw some pictures of the mountains and the goats when I'm up there and stuff like that. Or I don't know, being someone who works in a forest, like, I don't know, a fire watcher or something, being out in nature and just, I don't know, just enjoying stuff. Like, getting paid for hiking would be ideal, even though I feel like my knees are getting worse by the day. I don't know. Stuff is so complicated. And yeah, but like living like in Stardew Valley would be so nice, but it's just not realistic in the world we live in. Or maybe like, especially in the part of the world that I live in, I'm pretty sure that there are some countryside villages and communities out there who live exactly like in Stardew Valley, and it's this nice little town where everyone knows each other and supports and helps each other, and then there's community festivals, and it's just really nice and fun and peaceful. And I want that, but I know it's really not realistic. And there's also other games that my mind keeps circling around, and oh god. One of those games is What Remains of Edith Finch. And if you know that game, you'll know this segment is going to be rough. I don't want to worry you too much, but to me the most relatable character is Lewis, because I too have a job that's really repetitive, and yeah, I the current one I'm in is really exhausting, and I don't know what it is. But the job before was fine, even though it was even more repetitive and doing the same motion all day. I still do the same motion all day, but it's kind of different. Anyways, I also go away and just autopilot the job that I have to do, and the rest of my brain is just everywhere. I go and imagine my favorite movie scenes, or make up stories in my head, or think about stuff I want to talk about in this very podcast. And especially in the previous job I have been at, I do have to say I work in a short-term employment company, so I sometimes change jobs really often. Sometimes I return after a short while to a job I've been at before, but yeah, and one of the jobs I've been at, it hit really close. I mean, I wasn't like at that job. I was doing fine, and that's not a big problem. But it was kind of funny that people were super impressed with me and constantly praising me that I do the job so well, even though it's just a stupid, mundane, I do the same fucking thing day in, day out, and it's not hard, and yet I have seemed to excel at it, which is funny because something like that is exactly written in the psychiatrist's letter in the Lewis chapter of What Remains of Edith Finch. Like, yeah, and he also has been described as a model employee and stuff, and maybe it's a bit concerning, but at least I can't hurt myself at work with the machinery that is there, so that's good. Like, even if the maladaptive daydreaming goes really bad, I can't hurt myself. If you haven't noticed, I use humor to cope, and sometimes this humor that I use to cope gets really, really, really dark. Like just this morning when my night shift ended, this week so far has been really stressful, and I just hope the next night will be better. Depending on how long the recording of this whole episode, well, maybe I'll let you know later. I don't know, but I did jokingly say to the coworker from the morning shift that came in that if the week keeps being as stressful as that, I'll just maybe drive up the highway in the wrong direction. And I drive a Smart, so there is not much physics space to absorb any impact. Like, I'm within the absorption zone. Like, many cars still have a good meter or two until the driver cabin is there with the hood, with the engine and stuff. That's not you don't have that with Smart. That's like, there's not much impact zone before the driver is hit. The physics of a car crash with a Smart would be really, really bad. And yeah, so anyways, this got really dark, but I just wanted to say that, like, What Remains of Edith Finch is also one of those games that just keeps being in my head, especially the Lewis chapter, which should be concerning. But maybe it's just like that I'm in a similar job situation, and that I'm probably because of the job or something, I also keep just drifting off and imagining cool stuff while I work, or I listen to music or audiobooks, because what else am I supposed to do? I can't be alone with my thoughts in my head. I'd go crazy. Like, one time at work, at the other place, we had to officially wear our protective gear for our ears. Normally people either just don't wear it at all, which I don't understand, and some people have headphones on and listen to music. And one time we had like visitors from like a safety company or something, and we had to officially wear our ear protection. And oh boy, let me tell you, after those 8 hours alone in my head with just my thoughts to listen to, it was wild. I felt like I lost a bit of my mind, to be honest, and maybe that's anyways. This episode is a mess, and I'm just gonna barely edit it. Maybe I'll just cut out some big pauses or something, and if I catch it, the wild but honestly, I just want to keep this episode as how should I explain it, as chaotic as it is, because I feel like if I keep it unedited, it will be even more honest. And yeah, another game that I also think about, and it's also about death. Why am I thinking about death so much? That's really concerning and scary. But Before Your Eyes also has a really tight grip on me, because that game wrecked me on a molecular level. I can't explain it any other way. I too would lie about my life at death's door to make it seem more interesting. And fortunately, it's not as bad for me as it is for the protagonist in the game, but it's also not really great. I mean, I'm not sick and bedridden and have to make up an exciting life as an eccentric artist living the wildest stuff, but I just think that if I suddenly got sick and death would be near and I was bedridden, there's so much stuff that I would regret, or not necessarily regret, but wish that I'd done differently. And at the same time, a lot of stuff just happened as it happened, and everything just turned out to be so cool and exciting, which also makes me think about Life is Strange, like how the littlest thing can change so much. Like, I probably wouldn't even be recording this episode right now if it wasn't for, I don't know, me choosing Latin back in 7th grade or something instead of French, even though thinking back and knowing how I handle the English language, I probably would have done well with French and probably wouldn't have struggled in school as much as I did with Latin, for example. But I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast if I had chosen French. who knows where I would have ended up if I had chosen French, because the thing is, I could have used French, I could have watched movies, read books, I don't know, internet content in French, something like that. And yeah, but I sit here because if you really look at it as kind of a butterfly effect thing, like, I chose Latin, I struggled with it, had to repeat a year, and then I fell in love with a classmate. Like, it was a really, really big crush that actually made me realize I'm gay. And when I told a classmate that I was sitting next to in Latin class about it, he told me about Mass Effect, and I think without being told about Mass Effect, I wouldn't have gotten into gaming as much as I actually did. Like, before, I only played, and not to genre shame or something, but I'm gonna talk about it later in another episode, because that's just really, really interesting. And if it wasn't for being told about Mass Effect after I came out to that classmate of mine, I probably wouldn't have gotten into gaming as much as I did now. And then I changed school because I was advised and told about, like, those job helpers that tell you, hey, maybe you should go for this career. They told me to go to art school, and I did, and I changed school to graduate for an easier graduation, because that would just be enough for the next school that I wanted to go to. And I heard about Tumblr, and I made friends on there, and in that class and the friend circle. And then later on Tumblr, I heard about Life is Strange, and then I got into that, and over that I discovered gaming podcasts. And then one day I thought, why not make my own gaming podcast? And so I'm here, and that's like the whole Life is Strange butterfly effect fuckery. That's really, really interesting, and I just keep thinking, wow, if that thing went differently, where would my life be right now? And there's also one thing in the Life is Strange universe that I also keep thinking about, and that is in Life is Strange True Colors, the Wavelength DLC with Steph as the main character, and she has like this radio show, and people call in, and she does like those fortune tellings with her D20, because she's a Dungeons and Dragons nerd, and she's amazing and gay, and I love her. She's my favorite character. But she does like this radio show, and she gets calls and does fortune tellings. And one caller, she turns the thing around, and she asks this question, and it's, what are the odds I end up being alone forever? And this fire watcher, who's on the phone calling the radio station, asks her, is that a fear or an aspiration? And I always think about that, because I also feel like I'm on the never stopping trajectory of just ending up alone. And on the one hand, it's actually kinda a fear, and it also ties back to What Remains of Edith Finch, because who will remember me when I'm gone? Like, if I die young, I can't say this sentence without singing that song, I'm sorry, but if I were to die young, like, there's probably people who would remember me and say, wow, she always did memes. Like, there's like a few circles, some of them I've kinda left because I'm an idiot. But there's a few circles I've been known for making memes. I was the meme queen. There's always been, and there was kind of this expectation of, oh my god, when is the new Nici meme gonna drop? And it felt weird to be known as such and only be appreciated for that. And on the one hand, I like that. It's cool that people love my memes, but on the other hand, it's sad that people only like that stuff about me. Like, nobody really... there was one person that reached out and I was like, well, it's complicated, so I don't want to get into that. And the thing is also, I keep not like actively pushing people away, but in a sense of, I don't talk to people I like anymore, because if they ask me how I feel, I either have to lie to them or I have to burden them with how shit I actually feel. And that's scary and sad, and I probably should change that, because if I keep doing that, I might actually end up alone. And that's scary. Like, I like spending time on my own, but I'm absolutely fucking scared of ending up alone. And I don't like that. It's not nice. And I just keep thinking about that, and is that a fear and aspiration? And on the one hand, yes, it's a fear, but on the other, I like being independent, and I know that, like, modern understandings of how relationships should work also support my idea of that I can still be my own person and still can do my own stuff. And of course you have to pay attention to each other and look for their wishes and stuff, but yeah, so it would be fine. I could have people around me and also maybe look into getting into a relationship, but also I feel like I'm such a messy person. I feel like I have to sort out some issues of mine before I get into a relationship, because I feel like I could either get trapped in a toxic relationship that's bad for me, or I could be the toxic part, because I could be such a needy, clingy person that's just like, oh, you don't want to spend time with me, don't you love me? Like, I fear that I could be the toxic one in the relationship, and I don't want that. So, I might just better learn to deal with myself first and take care of myself before I seriously let another person in my life. And yeah, so that's kind of messy. And there's like other games that are also just like mildly in my head beyond just the pure entertainment factor. Like, right now I'm also thinking a lot about Fallout, and not just because of that amazing Amazon show, but also because like there's war everywhere in this world, and like, do I have to prepare for nuclear fallout and total atomic annihilation? Is that a realistic thing I should worry about? What about climate change? Do I have to prepare for the apocalypse in whatever form it may come? Like, that's kind of scary, but also thinking about all this capitalist stuff with the beginning of the episode when I talked about how wonderful a life would be if we lived like in Stardew Valley. Part of me just really wants the world to end, so all we have to worry about is survival. And I know I'm talking out of a really, really privileged position here, because there's a lot of people in this world whose reality is the daily survival and not just, oh no, I don't know what I should eat for dinner. I can't decide. There's so much in my shelves. And for other people, it's like, what am I going to eat today? There's nothing I could do. There's moldy bread in the street that I could eat, but it's gonna make me sick, and I can't afford being sick because everything is in ruins. And that's also scary, but I think me and probably many others have this kind of romantic view on the post-apocalypse. Like in Life is Strange, the whole Jackson community or The Walking Dead, all the survivors just going and building communities and living like I explained earlier in the Stardew Valley section, just having like their own little gardens and sheep and cows and whatever, and just living off that. I don't know, and the future seems so scary with AI getting bigger. Like, what if someday AI could take my job? If machines get so intelligent in a way that they also can put together the weird materials that I work with, because right now the stuff that I work with still require like some real genuine human creative thinking to put everything together. Like, I don't see how a robot could assemble what I'm building at work. And that's good. But for the other job that I do, there's a good chance that one will soon-ish be just automated. Because what the hell? What's the big deal with putting cable ducts into cardboard boxes? You could just say, yo, put X amount of cable ducts in that cardboard box. And the only human interaction that machine would probably have if the customers change and the text on the cable ducts have to be changed for the new customers, so that's it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's something that could be automated, and it's scary because that would mean that job also isn't safe. I feel like no job is. Maybe coroner. Like, people always die. And it's wild that that seems like the only job you can securely make money off, even into the far future. I hate this world. It's so scary. And of course there's cool stuff. I have amazing video games to play, cool shows to watch, amazing music to listen to, cool stories to listen to via audiobook or audio plays, dramas, whatever. I can craft cool stuff, I can draw, I can just talk about whatever I want in this podcast. And it's not as bad, but I'm also, with the whole situation, not really happy. I try to be and try to make the best of it, but it's hard. And I just wanted to get that off my chest with this episode. I probably could have mentioned a lot more games that go into this whole direction of things that I've mentioned, but I think I'll just leave it at that. So that's it for this episode. I'm sorry that it has been a long one and a messy one. I hope you have a good day. Feel free to follow me on my social media. Everything important is linked in the episode description. I'll leave a question of the episode in the episode. And yeah, so that was it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And bye.